USCIS naturalization process facing major overhaul. What if becoming a U.S. citizen was no longer just about passing a simple civics test? What if officers had brand new powers to deny your application based on things like your community involvement, your English writing, or even something as small as forgetting to update your address? That's exactly the future USCIS may be preparing for. Good moral character under the microscope. For decades, applying for naturalization has required proof of good moral character. Traditionally, this meant avoiding serious crimes, fraud, or other major issues that could raise red flags. But under the new direction, USCIS wants to expand what counts as bad character. Missing small obligations, like reporting a change of address within 10 days, could suddenly be used against you, just as it briefly was during the Trump administration. Now, discussions point toward adding factors like language fluency or civic participation to this requirement, making the definition of character far more subjective. The role of Joseph Edllo as USCIS Director. At the center of these proposed changes is the new USCIS Director, Joseph Edllo. He has been outspoken about his belief that the current naturalization process is far too easy. Edllo wants to see the test made significantly harder, with stricter rules in place to assess whether an immigrant deserves citizenship. His approach signals a shift from a straightforward legal process toward a more judgment-based system, one that could make applicants more vulnerable to denials, making the civics test more difficult. Currently, the civics test includes a bank of 100 questions, with the applicant asked just 10 during the interview. Passing requires answering 6 correctly, a relatively low bar. The proposed changes would double the number of questions asked, requiring 20 correct answers. Even more, USCIS wants to expand the overall pool of questions, making it harder to prepare in advance. Applicants may also need to complete this test at standardized testing centers instead of during their naturalization interview, changing the entire process into something closer to a college entrance exam. The controversial essay portion. Perhaps the most dramatic proposal is adding a written essay requirement. For many immigrants, speaking English at 80 to 90% fluency is already challenging. While conversational English may be manageable, formal writing is another skill altogether. A simple essay requirement could eliminate thousands of otherwise qualified candidates. Even individuals who have lived and worked in the U.S. for decades may find this barrier insurmountable, since writing skills depend heavily on education background and practice, not just language exposure. New tools for denial. Critics warn that the expansion of good moral character and testing standards is less about measuring commitment to the United States and more about creating loopholes for denial. Officers would have wider discretion to say no to applicants, even if they meet the existing legal requirements. This could mean that someone with a spotless history, stable job, and years of residency could still be rejected over technicalities or vague interpretations of character. Historical precedent of tougher standards. This isn't the first time USCIS has raised the bar. During Trump's first term, small technical missteps, like missing address updates, were used as evidence of poor character. While some of those rules were rolled back, the new direction under Edllo seems to revive the same philosophy, give officers more discretionary tools to say no, regardless of an applicant's long-term record. A shrinking path to citizenship. The broader concern is that these policies will dramatically reduce the number of people who succeed in becoming U.S. citizens. An already challenging process may turn into an almost impossible one, especially for applicants with average English skills or limited formal education. If implemented, the pool of successful applicants could shrink substantially over the next several years. Urgency for eligible applicants. Immigration attorneys and officers familiar with these internal discussions have been warning their clients, if you qualify for naturalization, apply now. Waiting may expose you to harsher rules and higher chances of denial. Many officers are already preparing for these shifts, citing internal emails and informal guidance that signal big changes are on the horizon. Other possible changes being considered. USCIS may begin evaluating community engagement and volunteer work as part of the naturalization process. This could mean that applicants who don't have strong ties to local organizations, charities, or civic groups might face additional scrutiny. There are also discussions about giving officers greater authority to question financial responsibility, for example, whether someone has paid taxes consistently or has a stable work history. While these have always been part of the background check, they could now be given more weight as a measure of character. What this means for the future. If even small issues like failing to file paperwork correctly, missing a payment, or limited civic engagement can be used as grounds for denial, the entire system could shift from one of inclusion to exclusion. Immigration attorneys believe this will not only slow down the approval rate, but may also create fear among lawful permanent residents who would otherwise qualify, leading many to delay or even abandon the path to citizenship altogether. One overlooked impact of these proposals is on immigrant communities themselves. If naturalization becomes harder, fewer people will take the risk of applying, fearing rejection or complications. That means fewer immigrants will vote, fewer will access benefits tied to citizenship, and fewer will integrate fully into civic life. The ripple effects could weaken entire communities, creating deeper divides between citizens and permanent residents. These are long-term consequences that go beyond just test questions and essay requirements. Ultimately, the direction USCIS appears to be heading reflects a broader political climate. By raising the bar, the agency can reduce the number of new citizens without ever passing new laws through Congress. For immigrants and their families, the message is clear. The window of opportunity for naturalization may be closing and fast. All right, guys. That brings us to the end of today's video. If you want to stay up to date on changes to USCIS policy directly from an immigration attorney's perspective, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time for another video.